All right, this is Catholic Dad, episode number 361, The Way of the Cross. So I was at work the other day. By the way, this whole coronavirus pandemic shutdown thing, it's really got everybody on edge in hospital systems, by the way. And it's not the way you would think. I mean, I would say maybe 10% of the population of the physicians and staff are kind of nervous about the whole thing. And I think the other 90% are kind of annoyed about it, and they're like, just bring it. Let's open the system up. Let's get it if we get it, but let's care for people finally. I mean, really, they're starving everybody out. A lot of staff is short on hours, and we're very low volumes in hospitals at this point in time. But nonetheless, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day because we have this staff member. I'll try to keep it adequately ambiguous, but we have somebody who's not necessarily very polite with other staff, right? So it's kind of a behavioral issue. The problem is this person of the staff is exquisitely talented and brings a skill set to our institution that I don't think exists in many places around the country. And so they're exquisitely valuable, but they have some behavioral issues. And the behavioral issues are not intrinsically evil. They're not I would say it's more rudeness than anything, but it's certainly not like sexual harassment or anything like that, because that would quantifiably be different than what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, so they told me that this person might have to go, and they might have to go because of certain behavioral issues. And so I was like, well, I don't see why you would do that. And then this person said to me, well, you of all people, Catholic Dad, I can't believe you would tolerate such behavior. And then I was, that didn't feel right. It rubbed me the wrong way when somebody said, you of all people, Catholic Dad, you would tolerate such behavior. And so I've been meditating on that because, when you push me, I'm going to actually think about it, because I didn't have a good response at that point in time. But I was thinking about the way of the cross, and I was thinking about the Garden of Eden. I was thinking about what Christ did for us. And so why would I tolerate bad behavior in staff over somebody else? And I think I probably would for the most part. And I think because the way of the cross is not controlling other people's behavior. The way of the cross is waging a war within your own heart, to the point of you will accept death as a consequence by being loyal to your own moral compass. And so let's meditate on the sorrowful mysteries of the Rosary right now, and not necessarily meditate, but think about them. Like the Garden of Gethsemane, Christ goes into for 40 days, and really this is analogous to the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve are in the Garden of Eden, and then Eve gets tempted by the devil. But does Adam protect her? No, he's kind of off doing something, and who knows what he's off doing? He might be off praying and meditating. He might be doing that, trying to be holy, but really he abrogated his responsibility to be the protector of Eve. Well, anyway, Christ essentially recreates the Garden of Eden in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he goes in for 40 days. And now, unlike the Garden of Eden, it's now a barren wasteland, and Christ doesn't go into the desert. The garden is a desert now. He goes into it in search of the devil. And he goes into it in search of the devil, not to conquer the devil, but to be tempted by the devil. And so he goes in, and he knows that he could win, but he wants to go and give the perfect example of what mankind can do with the correct moral compass. And so he goes in, and he's tempted by the devil, and yet he fasts and he prays and he's strong, and he never falls to the temptations of the devil, meaning that the war that rages within his heart is conquerable by all men. So he leaves the agony in the garden, and he goes to the scourging at the pillar. And when you take such moral stances and you deny yourself, you feel great pain and suffering and sorrow. But that's good, because it's the way of the cross, and it's the way of great, enabling you to be a higher, a more moral person, and more Christ-like. And so you take the punishment of the scourging at the pillar, then you move on, because once you come out that you've actually you've taken a moral high ground in the war that you're waging in your heart, well, then you're open to public ridicule, and that's the crowning with thorns. And that's where the people around you will then ridicule you and hate you and persecute you for taking a stance against the city of man, and essentially abiding by the city of God. And then you after you have a crowning of thorns, then you actually have to do your own labor for your own persecution, because if you stand by what you believe in, society will come down on you and they will kill you, and you have to, under You have to carry the cross to Calvary yourself, that yoke of burden on your shoulders for the moral high ground that you took. You need to carry the yoke to your point of death and crucifixion, that you actually have to be obedient to the will of God and deny the war raging within your heart. I mean, conquer the war raging within your heart to the point of your own crucifixion, where you allow society to put you to death for not violating your own moral conscience and following the great example of the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's the agony in the garden. So how does this apply to like me not wanting to discipline another staff member who is rude? And I'm not talking intrinsic evil here. I'm talking rudeness. And because the war that we rage in our Christian war is the war within our own selves. It's the war within our own hearts. And it's, can we find what our own iniquities and inadequacies are? And can we actually make modifications to them to become more Christ-like? We have to go into the desert ourselves. We have to wage war with the devil. That's what Christ gave us. Like Adam, by the way, Adam, when he was in the Garden of Eden, he lost that war because he abrogated his responsibility and duty as a man and let Eve go astray, and then he joined her eventually. But we actually have to go actually into the garden, which is right here in our own hearts. And then, only then, when we do battle and we change ourselves and we get scourged at the pillar, right? We endure great pain and suffering, and then public ridicule, and then we carry our own cross to our own crucifixion through obedience. Only then can we actually make a benefit to society. Like us, like yelling and screaming at somebody who carries, who's rude to staff. Well, we don't know what's going on in the heart of that one person. We don't. And again, I'm not talking intrinsic evils here. Like, the way to change that one person is the way of the cross, meaning change our own hearts and become a light for the future, a beacon of hope. Because if that person then sees that, oh, by the way, they're being rude, right, to everybody around them, and everybody just keeps bringing love towards them, and they actually modify their own hearts, and they actually go the way of the cross, then that example will shine through. And maybe some people are so dense that they don't actually understand that. It's possible. Maybe human behavior is not that modifiable. I mean, that's possible as well. But when the staff around you that you're being rude to just returns love every single time when you give them rudeness, and then, I mean, you might actually change somebody's heart that way. And really, the domination of your fellow human being is not the Christian way. The domination of your own personal heart is the Christian way. And so when I kind of poo-pooed somebody's rude behavior to staff, it wasn't me poo-pooing it. It was me just intrinsically believing in my own mind that I don't walk in that person's shoes. I mean, that person carries great responsibility with them. And we don't know what goes on at home with them. We don't know what kind of stressors are in their lives, what kind of mental illness they may have. We don't fully know what they do, but we do know they're highly competent. They do great work. They take care of patients really well, and therefore, I, as a Christian, I'm willing to tolerate rudeness for goodness. I mean, I really am, and knowing full well that I'm not going to allow it to corrupt me and me do combat with that person. I mean, I will do combat if it's an intrinsic evil, but if it's just rudeness, I'm going to keep smiling at him, and I'm going to keep trying to refine myself as a better person. And really, the lesson here is, too, if you believe somebody's rude behavior needs to be changed, perhaps it's your own weakness and inadequacies in your perception and your confidence as a man. I mean, that's possible. Like, literally, he's so mean to me. Well, whatever. I mean, is he really that mean to you? And if he is, why are you such a wimp? Like, you don't have to do combat with mean people. Like, literally, you can ignore them, or you can actually throw some love back at them and see what they do with it. They might actually go, oh, well, that stung a little bit. But certainly when you do combat with somebody who's rude, do you think that's going to diffuse the situation? I don't think so. Well, anyway, so think about that. Everybody's walking the way of the cross. We should be, by the way. And the war for the devil, against the devil, is in our own hearts. It's really nowhere else. Well, it is elsewhere, but I'll explain that a little bit later. But this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Please like or subscribe, get the Mass, and pray the Daily Rosary. And it's still Easter season, so keep having some fun. Hallelujah. The Lord is risen. God bless you all. Take care.